Welcome back to Dusting History. I have an iconic image today, but interestingly one that is out of copyright. So this is arguably my favourite building in America. There's Falling Water and the Chrysler Building, and that's about it. I much prefer it to the Empire State. So I was thrilled when I came across this image. So I'm actually in Topaz Photo AI at the moment, trying to find a way to reduce some of the really extreme grain that's on this old photograph. It's incredibly grainy for a picture that was taken in the 50s. So you can see here Topaz is taking a ton of grain out, but I think a little too much of the information of the image. It's really going to town on that grain. So you can see I'm trying to find a happy medium of reducing the grain but not destroying the detail of the picture. Back in Photoshop, you can see if I toggle between the two, it does appear sharper, but it isn't amazing in terms of the clarity of the picture anymore. So what I elect to do is actually blend the original with the Topaz sharpen to essentially just knock a little bit of the edge off the grain. It's quite an atmospheric image, but it's pretty glowy down the very bottom edge of the frame there. So I'll put a levels adjustment layer in and then create a grad in the mask of that layer and try to just darken down the very border of the frame. You can see there are some vehicles right down on the ground down there, and I want to highlight them a little bit, or at least not lose them in the glow. That little bit of an adjustment there, that darker line, I can just simply paint away. So not a hugely dirty image, this one. Doesn't take me long at all to get rid of this. You've seen some of the other pictures I've had to clean up with many thousands of spots. This was a breeze. Okay, back in Topaz Photo AI, what I'm going to try to do this time is upscale the image. It's already a couple of thousand pixels, but I want to get it up to about 7K. That's actually more just me playing around rather than for any real necessity. So there's the upscaled image. If I drop the original in, you can see how much smaller the original was. So just for illustration purposes, I've scaled it up and I'm toggling between the higher res and the zoomed up low one underneath it. So now in palette.fm, I'm actually using its AI palettes across the top to try and see if I can get a base auto color for my composition. None of these are really striking home. So what I'm doing here, and you haven't seen me do this before, is I'm actually editing my own prompt, and I'm literally telling it it's New York in the fog with the Chrysler Building, just to see what it does. And I shouldn't be all that surprised, but it did a fantastic job. So I tried to save out that image. It was a little bit too large for the app, but it did it anyway. It just warned me that it was too big. So here's the image in Photoshop. I'm going to up the vibrance of it just a little bit, just to make the color a little bit more punchy. And also you can see here I've put a mask on the vibrancy layer because I didn't like it sort of bringing all the smoggy areas up to, the color there. So I only allowed the vibrancy to exist on the taller buildings and let the others recede into the fog. No, that was me trying a desaturate on the fog, but I didn't like that either. So what I'm electing to do here is put a mask on that color layer and paint back to the black and white image underneath, just here and there in the fog, to sort of neutralize some of the colors, wash them out a little. And then what I'll do next is I have this brilliant idea to put a tiny tint of blue on the original image underneath, on the grayscale image, to hint at a tiny bit of color in that smog, because the black and white image underneath was looking almost magenta, poking through that warm color. So that was really a complicated way to do something really simple. I wouldn't do that again. What I should have done right from the start, and I do here, is I went online and I got some stock from Adobe of the actual Chrysler building just to see how the colors lined up. And you can see they're quite out, and it actually made me realize how green this composition was. So what I'm going to do here is go to color range. This allows you to select a color range under the color picker, and there's a fuzziness slider for how wide or how much left and right of that color to look. So I'm going to select some of those greeny browns of the buildings. You can see it's highlighting them in the mask there. And I'll try to just take a guess to try and hit the front faces of those buildings. As you can see, I'm trying to select just the areas I want, and that'll generate a mask based off those colors. So there's a selection there. Now if I go down here and make a color balance layer, it automatically generates a mask from that setting, and you can see if I pull the colors around, it's only going to affect those greeny brown tones that I selected. I'm much happier with that color. I think those browns are far more true. So I'm just going to paint in here and there, just exposing some color and hiding some areas of color, just using those masks to sort of find a balance that I like. Next thing, I'll build a new layer, set it to color mode again, and select a paintbrush, and then start to color pick off the stock footage and paint in the building. So I'm adding some warmth to those steel capped sort of roof of the Chrysler building, trying to indicate some of those slightly warmer tones, and then I'll work my way down the building and then across the rest of the city. I tried to highlight a few of the windows on the Chrysler building with a bit of a burn there, but you know what, I decided I was fiddling a bit too much, and so I stopped that. I even stuck a cheeky lens flare on just to see what that looked like. It looked like I was trying to make some sci-fi poster, so I decided against that. One last little thing I'm going to do is a frequency separation here. That grain there in that dark fog doesn't really look like fog or smog. It looks really like damage. So I'm just going to even that out a little bit on using the frequency separation tool, and it's just enough to sort of soften that area and not make it look quite so lumpy. So there you have it, restoring an iconic view of New York City. Tried a few different techniques there, things I haven't normally used, so I hope you enjoyed that and got something out of it. Thanks very much. See ya.